And then we've got that over there. Okay, so the main thing is, as we just said, let's get going with regards to the discussion with regards to whether or not it was bombs, whether or not it was dew, whether or not it was thermite nukes, or all the wonderful theories out there. And what I'm going to propose is that the only independent forensic investigation that was done of the observable evidence was done by Dr. Judy Wood. She was ahead of her time with regards to the conclusions that she made after investigating all the observable evidence. And once she looked at all the observable evidence, she came to a specific conclusion where she could rule out that any thermal or kinetic mechanism was used to turn the buildings mostly into dust before they hit the ground. So your point where you basically asked and said, okay, so you support the dew theory of Dr. Wood, and on which evidence is this theory based? My reprieve on that was, it's the easy observable evidence at ground zero that was extensively covered by Dr. Wood's book and her two QTAM case in 2007 against 23 NIST subcontractors for science fraud, and that also went all the way to the US Supreme Court in 2009. And when she filed her first case in 2007, that basically was even before the Architects for Engineered Truth, under the tutelage of Richard Gage, even saw the light of day. So if we go back to the initial attacks on September 11, on September 12, people were asking weird and wonderful questions because they could notice that there was a lack of rubble with regards to 1,300-foot buildings that supposedly was demolished in a controlled demolition using bombs or whatever. And I would like to play just a quick video clip with regards to what was said on the news on September 12 and September 13. And from there on further, it was never talked about again, which is rather telling. And once we watch the video, I will also like to show you a couple of pictures with regards to what was found in the rubble. So let's quickly just jump into that first video.
I don't hear. I don't hear
right.
the...
Okay, let's quickly go back to screen sharing. I most probably didn't do the... stop sharing quickly. Go back into share screen, switch on computer sound, generic monitor. You should hear it now.
I think the lack of artifacts stands out to me.
Okay, now it just needs to play right.
I think the lack of artifacts.
Okay, so here, let's go.
Fact stands out to me quite a bit. I think the fact that I haven't seen a door, I haven't seen a phone, I haven't seen a computer, I haven't seen a doorknob. I think that stands out. But for the things that we have seen, every now and then we'll come across a stuffed animal that might have been on somebody's desk, pictures that were on people's desks.
Jackie Judd and several other people keep asking us, when you look at where the towers used to stand, there is surprisingly so little rubble. Where did all the rubble go?
It's a very good question, Peter, and I have asked some people who've been doing some of the rescue and recovery work this morning. If you look behind me, you can see the very remains, the skeletal remains of the World Trade Center. And one volunteer, Robert Gerlinski, explained to me the reason there's so little rubble is that all of it simply fell down into the ground and was pulverized, evaporated.
What was that he said? Fell down to the ground, was pulverized and evaporated. I don't mean to be making fun of these people at all. They're trying to explain what they see. They don't see enough debris. And they're trying to come up with some explanation as to where the building went. Actually, that video clip I saw that day, and that partially inspired the title of the book. Because why did people quit asking that question? Here's another short clip.
Can we stop here?
I was astonished at the degree to which solid materials were turned into pulverized dust as a consequence of that building collapse. I think it was striking.
People were shocked. It did not make sense how much it was turned to dust.
Yes.
So, yes.
Okay. I see she claims there are very few debris.
Yes.
So I went to the archives and I searched for the image for the pictures made by FEMA first investigators that went to the site.
Yes.
And I get these. I am going to share these images.
Okay, let me first stop my screen sharing.
Yes, you can stop. I am going to give you several images.
Okay.
So first of all, let's begin with that. I'm going to share my screen. You see, this is a construction image.
Correct.
And if you see around it, this is the ground level.
Yes, and that's
And
the
the
bottom
growl-
section. The bottom section is the sixth
Yes.
floor basement.
below ground. But this area is almost empty. I mean, there are rooms and so on, but there are much space. And also, this is the plaza area.
Correct.
Yes?
Yes.
So if we go to the next image, here we have the same image from other side. This is another image, the similar.
Correct.
The similar image. And here we can see that the floor level is here. And here it collapsed. This area is around the towers. And this area collapsed. Why? Because with all the debris that fall on it. So the debris, we can see it here again. You see, this area collapsed because bottom is empty. So all these debris comes from the towers and they collapsed the surrounding area, and many things get down below ground. This is a picture from inside. Here we have another picture at the same area. So you see, we are much more below the ground. And there are many pictures like that.
That is basically the south tower. On the left, you've got a stub that is left of the building 3. So once again, if you look at this picture is all the, just go back. That is all that was left.
No, not all. Sorry, not all, because here it is already cleaned. This area is cleaned. But
I'll show you other pictures as well.
No, sorry. I made a quick calculation. The floors of the Twin Towers were 12 feet high. 12 feet high. And the concrete slab was 4-inch thick.
Correct.
So if you take 4 inches thick slab, which fills all the surface, you divide it to 12 feet, you have about 1 or 2%. Let's add 1 or 2 more percent for the steel floor trusses and so on. You will have 3 or 4 or 5% of the height of the Twin Towers that will remain. If we take 5%, it is, I remember quickly, it is about 400 meter high. You take 1% makes 4 meter. You multiply by 5, it makes 20 meter. Here it is more than 20 meter high, the image. So
No,
the debris are okay.
Look, with any conventional controlled demolition using explosives, any rubble pile usually is at average 12.5% of the original building height.
No,
so if you take 12.5% with regards to a 110-story building, you expect at least 14 floors.
Sorry, this information of 12% is not verified. I gave you 5%, let's it 10%. It does not change anything. It is, okay. We are the area, the amount of debris is approximately okay.
Okay, but once again, if you go back to the pictures where they were building the towers and you see the amount of steel in the outer columns, the inner columns, and the floor trusses and all of that, it just does not account for all the steel. And I've got a couple of pictures that I'll share with you as well, using the sphere in the plaza as the focus point with regards to the rubble pile as well, because that you're showing there is what was left of the Marriott Hotel. And that was a 22-story building. So where did 90% of that building go to? That little stub that you had over there on that one picture.
You 90% see,
of it's gone.
Here is the floor level, ground level, and
correct.
People are much below.
Yeah. And so, what people like Richard Gage, if you go back to that picture where the guys were in that hole, that's where they try and state that it was thousands of degrees Celsius as well.
You know, what Richard Gage says is not, I'm not concerned with it.
Precisely, yeah.
The information what people give, thousands of degrees and so on, they are completely unverified. We cannot take them as reference.
I'm happy that you're on the same page with me with regards to that.
So clearly, please, let's focus on hard information, hard evidence, and not to take any information for good,
granted,
like it is. No, if we want to solve this solution, this 9/11 issue, we must check the evidence, because unfortunately, there were many false information injected in the evidence given by the facts.
Yes.
And this is criminal, because the problem of 9/11 is like a puzzle. If we compare it to a puzzle, you buy a new puzzle, you have thousands of pieces, and you need to put them together.
Correct.
But before giving you these puzzle pieces, some people removed 900 pieces out. Mm-hmm. They kept you only 100 pieces. And then they added 900 other pieces from other puzzles. And you need to solve this puzzle.
Yes.
It is very difficult. For the first time we need is to check every information, and do not take for truth every information given from everybody. We must check everything very carefully. Are we agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go on. So for information, the first information for me, when you see such images, the debris are there, and there is nothing else. If Judy Wood claims that the steel was converted to dust, she must show us half converted steel to dust.
I will be showing you that.
There isn't half converted steel to dust, because such phenomena does not exist. There is no dustification of steel. Steel remains a steel, that's all. This is an image of constructed building in Brussels, where I live nearby. So that shows the core section, which is very important, made by reinforced, steel reinforced cast steel. And this is the core. The exterior columns are very thin, very small. They support only vertical loads. And all horizontal loads are contained, are resisted by this core area, in which there are also elevators and stairwells and utilities and so on.
Mm-hmm.
This is the general structure of all high-rise buildings today, because this is the most efficient way. So I stop. Are we agreed that the debris are enough?
I will quickly refute that, and can I quickly share screen with you?
Yes, let's
so that
go
I
on.
can show you my point. Okay, so let's go. Computer sound on. Generic monitor. So let's go to this. Okay, so we need to remember what the World Trade Center looked like. We had the 210-story buildings. Building 3, 22. Building 4, 9 stories. Building 5, 9 stories. Building 6, 8 stories. And Building 7, 48 stories. Now, we are going to be using, in the middle over there you can see the sphere in the Liberty Plaza. So obviously we're going to be basing the size of the sphere in relation to the buildings. So once again, this is basically just after the first airplane-shaped hole was created. We can see Building 6, Building 5, South Tower, North Tower, and then obviously Building 4. And there we have the sphere. Now, obviously, after the buildings went down, another view out of one of the towers, showing the size of it. And then, obviously, the buildings disintegrated, and what was left, what did we see? So, a missing 22-story building, a missing 110-story building, a missing 110-story building. That little section over there is the stairwell B, where 16 people survived.
Yes.
Over here, we've got Building 4, with 75% on this section here. That was just completely missing.
Mm-hmm.
You can also see a little bit of debris on top of these buildings. So if you had 210-story buildings being blasted to bits, thermited to bits, nuked to bits, or whatever, and the steel was ejected all over the show, then obviously you would expect a lot more debris on top of these buildings.
Sorry.
And over there, you've got the sphere again.
Yes.
So now
Yes.
we need to go on to
no,
the ground
remain here,
level.
please. Remain here, please. Okay, no problem. Anyway.
Okay.
As the number that you gave, 13%, 12%, or any is could be possible in case of concrete buildings, because in concrete buildings there are much more material than in steel buildings. And here, these two, the twin towers, were made of steel. In order to reach that high, they used a steel structure. What? Where is the steel?
So where's the steel?
The steel is around there. We see it. And the steel is much, please. The steel is much lighter, not heavy, than concrete. And the volume of steel is much smaller than concrete. So it is normal that we have less than 12% of height for these two towers. So it is definitely clear, because this is very important.
Okay. I just quickly want to go through this little list, and then we'll go back to the point with regards to the size of steel, because I've got a video that will go into the size of the steel, and I'll be able to show you that there isn't enough debris on the ground for 210-story buildings, and never mind the missing 22-story building, because here we've got the sphere that was in Liberty Plaza.
Yes.
This is the remnants of the North Tower. Okay, that was a 110-story building.
Yes.
So you would expect a 110-story building, steel core, steel frame, steel floors, steel everything, and you can't see it here. The same again. You can see the sphere. You can see the size of the sphere. There is a lot of steel there, but once again, if you look at that, they tended to call it the candlesticks. Now, one of those candlesticks weighed in excess of 5 tons. Okay, so that's not light steel whatsoever. That's massive stuff. And if we go through, this is the main question. So if you ask if it was done by gravity collapse triggered by fires or plane impacts, the evidence just proves it doesn't, because there's no pile drive at the base. There's no pile at the base either. The core columns from the lobby is exposed over there. You can see and they weren't bent or ripped apart. And then, once again, the contents of the towers. There was no office equipment found, no furniture, no machinery, no toilets, no nothing. Nothing to prove that it was office buildings. They actually only found one filing cabinet, and that was in the basement of Tom and Jerry's. So again, we had this, a building like that size, okay? And that's the rubble pile over there, and that's building 6. Here we can see building 6, building 7 is still standing. And that's the rubble pile with stairwell B. And to give you a clearer picture of this, in where this fireman is walking, just on this side.
Sorry. Be careful. When you make measurement on such pictures, it is very imprecise, because depending on the angle of vision, on the distance, on the position of the camera, and so on, of the objective opening, the image can be completely different. So taking measurement to size to give the amount of debris that it was found, it is impossible. So
well, you can
that is not
on a guesstimate in relation to what we see there, and we'll get to a second picture with regards to that. But
at least these images are not precise.
This ambulance was parked in the street in front of the North Tower. Okay. Now that is stairwell B, where you had 16 people survive. That's the rubble pile. It's not even higher than 3 stories. And this ambulance isn't clobbered by anything.
No, this image is not possible to measure with this, because the ambulance is in the front, in the front of the image, and the building is in the backside. Depending on the height of the camera and so on, it can be completely different.
I've got a second picture for that where it'll show it relative from a distance. So if we go to this as well, this is part of the previous one. This is street level where this fireman is walking. You can still see building 6. You can see the rubble pile in the back, and World Trade Center 7 still fuming away during the course of the day. So we know this is somewhere in the middle of the day. So the whole aspect of, they carted everything away on barges and all of that is irrespectable. All you see here is a bunch of dust, and you see aluminium cladding. There is no steel lying there on the ground with regards to a building
image,
that was 110 stories high. And this section in front here, over here, you used to have the Marriott Hotel, a 22-story building, and it's just not there.
sorry, again, this image is not precise, is not possible. And I see it is very bright, so it is some faked also. So be careful, be careful. We cannot measure the height of debris like that.
Okay, we can go into this. This is also, you can see building 7 still standing. That is building 6 still burning. This is the buildings next to it that was a lot shorter than a 110-story building. There is no rubble on these. There is no damage to the tops of these buildings with a 110-story building being blown to bits.
Yes,
and
but we have, sorry, but we have several,
6.
sorry, but we have several debris aside of these 2 buildings.
But it's not enough for a 110-story building.
No, it is not. I mean around on the buildings itself, on these 2 buildings, on the lower floors, you have some flat areas. On these flat area, there are some debris of the Twin Towers that were ejected from there. But
okay, and that is building 6 over there that stood right next to the North Tower with hardly anything on it. So where is the rubble from a 110-story building that was standing next to it, and there's nothing on this building? Where did it go?
There are around much debris. We cannot see with this. It is not precise enough, but there are debris. Sorry, again, another stuff. I think some measurement of the FEMA showed that debris were more oriented to the plaza and not to the building.
Once again, the pictures that I showed you with regards to the plaza,
it was
shows you there's not enough.
There is these debris are too much. Do not take it as a small.
It's not enough debris. That's a 110-story building that stood there. That's a 110-story building that stood there. And that's the plaza. And if you go back to the initial section where you've got the plaza on that side, you've got a 110-story building over there. You've got a 110-story building over there. That's a 22-story building over there. And that's the plaza. And what did we find in the plaza? That.
Can I share my screen?
Okay, but I just quickly want to finish with the first section.
Go on.
So then we go through to this, where you can also see that is a small little piece of building 4 that was left. The main part of the body over there is missing. It's not there. And the basement underneath it was undamaged. That's building 6 over there. That's building 7 over there. And that's building 5 with these strange round holes. Over there, you've got the remnants of building the North Tower. That's the South Tower over there. And over here, you had the 22-story building, Marriott Hotel building number 3, which is missing. There's a little stub of it right over there. Now, again, this is the rubble pile for the South Tower. And that is all of that, that's still 107 stories worth of building that just disappeared. So now I just quickly want to play a quick video. This is the last picture. That is the ambulance right over there. That was parked in West Street in front of the North Tower. So that's the North Tower. This is where you've got the South Tower. That is a stub that was left of building 3. So all of this over here is basically aluminium cladding from the outside of the buildings and dust.
No, that's wrong. Sorry, there are steel parts in this area.
No, there was steel, but not enough. But not enough for
You
210-story buildings coming down.
Sorry, you cannot take a consequence on the amount of steel on the ground because you have no precise measurement.
You can actually look and see that there's not enough. Okay, but let's just do this quick thought experiment with regards to the size of the steel and the core and all of that. So let's quickly listen to this. Come on, man, play.
To help us get our mind around the phenomena at the World Trade Center, Dr. Judy Wood begins by reminding us how much structure was there.
We have two towers, huge towers, very large objects.
But they are empty.
Let's look at the core columns, huge beefy beams. And then we have the outer columns and floors bolted between the two. These floors are pretty elaborate structures with this webbing of trusses underneath. Can you imagine putting your arms around one of these beams? It's pretty large. I look at this picture and wonder how someone could believe that every single piece of cross-section would disintegrate at the same time, due to heat, due to whatever. And as they're building it, you can see the very substantial core columns. Looks like it's half the floor space. And then they went away. So here we have WTC-3, also known as the Marriott Hotel. Right after WTC-2 was destroyed, had this big gouge out of it. Vertical slice separating the southernmost edge of it. This was before Tower 1 was destroyed, and when Tower 1 was destroyed, the rest of this building went away. And we have these three weak checks stabbed into the pavement. And here is what's left.
That section over there. There's only part left of building 3.
This little tiny stub looked like it was the base of this tall, narrow portion.
And 14 people
Just a little tiny bit of it left. This is looking north-northeast, across where Tower 1 used to stand an hour or two earlier. Where'd it go? From this down to
no, this section is not verified. I cannot confirm the same area because and the same picture.
Building 4, you don't have the main body of it, you just have the north wing. Where did it go? Where are the towers?
Yes, the debris collapsed toward the building 4, also building 3.
It's just 40 stories, so we're missing 60 or 70 stories of building, more than half of it. Where'd it go? Where are the towers? Where are the towers?
It's normal. Stop here, please.
We're nearly finished.
Where'd it go? Tower 1 is so overshadowed by this 8-story remnants of Building 6. What's wrong with this picture? you should have at least 100 more stories of the north wall of Tower 1. Where is the north wall? Where'd it go?
All those debris are normal.
No.
Sorry.
Where'd it go?
I will explain why. I will explain why.
Where are the towers?
To help us get our
Okay.
So the debris coming from the Twin Towers were some heavy when they touched the below buildings, because the building 3 and 4 and 6 and so on are very low than the Twin Towers. So the structures of these lower buildings are lighter, are not so strong than the Twin Towers. Then when you have debris falling on them, they will collapse. And they collapsed in some parts, at least the part where debris followed on them, they collapsed. That's why the building collapsed. Because it is not made as strong as the Twin Towers. And it is not necessary to do it as strong. So the buildings where debris followed on them, they were broken.
Okay, so if we look at building 4, this is from FEMA. That is the Bankers Trust building.
I really
and
don't
that is
like, please, I really don't like such picture, which are very white, very covered with dust. So imprecise, we cannot use them as strong evidence.
This is actually an aerial photo that shows you the only bit that was left of building 4. That is another picture, and this is from the NOAA. That's official images. And that picture showing you there that building 4 is gone, missing.
Okay.
Right? Same with this picture. And
okay, I see.
Even this picture. And in the back over there, that is where you had building the South Tower. So where did this building go?
Can we go to the first? I am going to take this image also and to explain you, because it is important to know. I must open some document before in order to show you. One moment, please. Yes, this is the right one. Can I share my screen?
Okay, let me just quickly close mine. Okay, I've stopped sharing.
This is a picture from FEMA report. Do you see it?
Yes. So is the purple bit or whatever where the bathtub was built?
This is the World Trade Center 4. This part is removed.
Yeah, missing.
Yes, because the explosion inside this building went mostly into this direction and this direction, less into this oblique direction. They went into 4 directions, 4 faces, and most of the debris went here, and they collapsed all this part.
Okay, but you're saying that the explosions took away this section of the
Yes, not the explosion, the falling debris.
Yeah, but there was no, but you can see in that picture there's no debris over there. And then also, if you look at building 3, with the bottom corner of it, that's where the little stub was left where 14 people survived. So how can you say that?
No. The area where people survived is here.
No, that's in, 16 people in World Trade Center 1 and 16 people in World Trade Center 1 and 14 people in World Trade Center 3 in the little stub that was left of the Marriott Hotel survived there where you've got your cursor.
Here?
Yes, 14 people survived there.
So that's normal because you have debris coming from World Trade Center 2 in this side and not in this direction. So this part is less damaged than this part. The same applicable for this part, and also from World Trade Center 1, this part is also damaged some.
Okay.
So
let me quickly show you something with regards to building.
Let me also show some pictures from here, because we are not, you see this is the North Tower, this is building 7, this is building 6. And you see most of the debris from North Tower fall on building 6. You see,
no, actually,
and this part, especially this part in front of the side.
Okay, can I quickly share screen with regards to building 6?
Let's go.
Okay, cool bananas. Let me quickly share my screen with you.
I mean, globally, if you see, there are some explanations for most of the argument of Judy Wood.
No, not really. Because the thing is, if you look at building 6, you've got that section over there. You've got this building right across the street from World Trade Center 1. World Trade Center 1, the North Tower. But you've got the holes in building 6, but the insides of it was completely empty.
Yes, but
You've
this
got no
building,
rubble in it.
yes, the pieces that you see inside there, these are debris fallen from one of the twin towers, from the North Tower.
But it's completely
you see
empty.
these pieces.
There's not enough debris
in
the building.
Sorry, in the empty area just in the image before you show. After you see 3 columns together, there are exterior columns coming from North Tower. So such huge parts, when they fall on such buildings, they collapse many floors up to the ground. That's
but then
normal.
where's the inside? Where's the insides of the building on which it collapsed into? Because you've got all 8 stories of the building here. It's level to the ground, but there isn't rubble. So you should have at least maybe it dented in somewhat with regards to falling debris, but it's not there. It's empty. Then also, if you look at, I haven't got the pictures with regards to there on that picture, you can see here you've got the remnants of the South Tower, and it's an empty
is the North Tower.
hole. No, that's the North Tower. Yeah, sorry, yes. North Tower.
Sorry.
But once again, where is the rest of the North Tower? It's
the parts are expelled on these building 6, and they collapse it to the ground, or the building 6 was collapsed to the ground.
Why don't you have anything there?
This is in front of the corner of the building. As I said, the explosions happened in the core, and they pushed most of the debris perpendicular to each side. So outside of the building, on the direction of the flat size, not the corner.
But again, if you look, if you're stating that the debris fell down and caused the hole and all of that, then why is the hole empty? And if you even look at the top of that building,
yes,
there's nothing on there.
Again,
And
this is in the corner of the building, so there were less debris going in this direction.
that's where you can see it's
We can
basically
see
it's empty inside the building.
yes, but this is a steel. When it collapses, the empty space collapses to the ground, and we have very, very few height of debris. So, sorry, this is normal. We cannot say anything abnormal in these images.
No, there's
And
a physical lack of debris in those pictures.
Definitely not. Sorry, we cannot, at least we cannot say that because we don't have precise measurement. We don't have it.
You can just open your eyes and see that there isn't enough debris there.
I fully open my eyes. The problem is that, as I said when we discussed it, Judy Wood is using misrepresentation.
Not at all.
She is using. She is mainly using how visual misrepresentation. That's all.
Okay, so you want to tell me this is a visual misrepresentation if you're looking at the size of building 3 over there?
Yes, but
and
it's
then
it's a small building.
And okay, so you've got a massive building, 2 massive buildings.
No, they are not massive. They are empty buildings. Empty buildings because they are made to get free space for working for people and so on. They are made of steel, and this steel takes very few space, and they made it as efficient as possible. I mean, they tried to minimize to the maximum the size of steel that is used. And this is normal because this is economical aspect. More steel you put therein and more costful it will be, and also more steel you put therein, it will be more heavier, and more heavier means more danger for earthquake lateral forces. So the building should be.
That's small pieces of steel.
Compared to the building, it is small, but these cores, these buildings, these columns are huge. They are 52 inches by 22 inches, and they are almost full. They are at 88% massive columns. I know that.
But a recheck like this weighed 5 tons, and that is what the steel. Look how small those people are.
This is not the same building.
That's the same building. That's the World Trade Center.
This is the World Trade Center?
Yes. And that's the steel.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where are you in this image, in the precedent image, please. Precedent image, please.
And there you can see what the top was.
Precedent image, please.
That.
This one, where are we? We are at the exterior columns. Yes, you are right.
Yes.
I see, but this is the floor level. Below this is the underground.
But that's all the steel. You had a 1,300 foot steel building.
Yes.
And you want to tell me that all the steel pieces like that just never ended up on the ground?
Yes, no, they are on the ground. I can show you images on the ground of these pieces on the ground. I can show you.
Okay. But
let me show you some pieces.
But I just want to get back to building 3, because if you look at the size of that building in relation to the Twin Towers, when everything came down, this is what was left of that building at the end of the day.
Okay.
That's all that was left. And there's nothing of the tower.
Come to the prior images, precedent images, please. Come to the precedent images, please.
Which ones?
Roll your images on the backside. One of the images is important, I think. Come back again.
One of these?
No.
Oh, should I scroll up again?
Yes, you should scroll, please, slowly.
Okay.
This one. You see, that is after the collapse, and you have the middle which is collapsed. You said me
No,
these
South Tower
three
stuff.
column, these three exterior columns are 5 tons weight.
Yes.
When you have 5 tons falling on such a building, not only 1 or 2 or 3, several 5 tons falling on such buildings, they collapse completely. And that's what happened. So that
Okay,
is
so-
completely normal.
Okay, so in this picture, where's the steel that fell on it?
But this one is later.
Where's the steel that fell on it?
This is too much later because they already removed much of the debris.
No, that's the same day. That's
Not-
on the day.
Not possible because the precedent image is the same part. So please, if not possible, because the precedent image is the same part but with upper parts on it.
Okay, wait. I've got other pictures of building 3.
The
Just
building
quickly
3
get
that
them.
we were discussing is
Yeah.
important because it is just after the collapses. And much part of the building are still on the place. Only the middle is the collapsed.
So if we go through building 3,
Can you scroll back here, this image? Sorry, this image.
that one.
No, the next one. This one. You have building 3 here, and you have you see in both ends, you have high spaces, high
But
floors.
that's after World Trade Center 2 went down. But after World Trade Center went down, this is the sizing of the buildings that we had. So
Okay.
if you have these two guys being
Down.
blown to bits, how much rubble do you expect to find
Okay.
on the ground? If this is West Street where we had the ambulance,
Okay.
and
You
this
see,
is basically
okay,
what was left
keep
of
back,
that building.
please. Come back, please, because this building 3 is in front of both towers, flat faces, facade. So the World Trade Center 2 made some part of building 3 collapse, the image that we saw. And then when World Trade Center 1 collapsed, it also created much more damage to World Trade to the building 3, and it collapsed completely because both it get twice the maximum debris from
Okay, so how much? So
the
my
two
question then is,
buildings.
how much debris should we expect to see on the ground then?
But
Because
how much we cannot. The most important what I want to say you is 5 tons columns falling on such a building, it will destroy it.
because remember that little section over there that's highlighted.
Yes.
Is all that was left. You had these two big buildings.
Because
And-
this part, okay, that's again normal, because the middle of this building, can I can't show my mouse on your screen.
Okay, and that's on the day because they had water mains break. Okay, so here you've only got that little stub of that building left. Where's the rubble for the 210-story buildings that demolished and fell on this building?
You
It's
see,
not there.
in this image, you see on the right side above the two firemen, you see a set of 3 exterior columns of the Twin Towers.
Well, yes. So it's only
But
3 columns. Where's the 110-story building?
Sorry. These 3 columns comes from building from North Tower, which is far from this area. And when that means these debris were ejected far from the building in this direction.
Okay, but
so
you had
all
building South Tower is standing right next to it. So where's the debris from the South Tower?
It is on the left side. The building, the damage, the columns that you see on the left side of the image comes from more on the left, comes from the South Tower.
Well, once again, you should not be able to see this if 210-story buildings came apart and all the steel in those buildings fell to the ground.
It is, we see too many
Yeah.
exterior columns from the Twin Towers here around. So each of these columns, when it collapsed, when it fall on this building tree, made huge damage every time. So finally, very few things remains.
So that is what was left of that
Yes.
building. Here you've
Yes.
got a 110-story building. Where's the
That-
rubble for that 110-story building?
They are around. They are
Where?
around. We see them. They are there. The image is made white, and it is some deceiving because it makes the pieces of metal invisible. But in reality, we see all these debris are steel columns from the Twin Towers, exterior columns falling on this area. Because you do not imagine a realistic demolition scenario. We will see it. We will see it later. You do not imagine a realistic demolition scenario. Then you don't have any idea of where the debris are falling, how they will be ejected or not. But I studied all these aspects, and we can discuss it later. But up to now, I don't have any evidence that proves anything wrong in these debris. Sorry.
That's Liberty Plaza with the sphere. 110-story building, 110-story building, 22-story building. Where's the rubble? There isn't enough rubble there.
You cannot take such a decision on basis of these pictures. And for me, there is no problem for this.
That's the size of the
debris
building.
are there. The debris are there.
I don't think so. Because
let me share my screen, and we are going to see it. I have some pictures that I prepared from FEMA, and we can see them.
Let's close that. Okay, share away.
So here we are again. You see, do you see my screen?
I do, yes.
So the debris of World Trade Center 1 came in this direction. First, the debris from World Trade Center 2 followed from this part, fallen on this area. That's why this area first was damaged. And then World Trade Center 1 debris fall here on all these area, and we had only this part remaining. Because there was 2 towers collapsing on this area.
Okay, and you've got pictures to show me where the rubble is, which I can't see.
I am going, here you can see one picture. This is from FEMA. And we can see, you see, this is the floor level, and here we are far below the ground. Because all area is collapsed.
Again, we've got Liberty Plaza with the sphere in the middle of Liberty Plaza, and nothing fell on Liberty Plaza. You would expect a huge rubble pile to be filling the Liberty Plaza. So why is the sphere not buried under a stack of steel?
Because pieces went below the sphere, because around the sphere is collapsed. The ground collapsed to the underground, 6 floors high below. And you have all debris below the ground. Here is the ground level, and here you have parts far below the ground. And these are exterior columns coming from probably the south tower. This is probably the north tower, if I don't make mistake.
No, that's the north tower because it's right next to building 6.
Yes, and here is, you see, it is underground. because the ground floor collapsed. So, sorry, but on this basis, you cannot. And as I said to you in the mail, Judy Wood is using visual effect misrepresentation. And you see these images, we see red columns. There you see everything white. It is not, it is deception work. So be very, very, very careful, please. You cannot take the evidence as it is given by any people. Even me, you know, check my evidence. Carefully check my evidence.
So if you want to go, I want to show you something with regards to seeing that we're on the basements.
Let's go.
We're actually going off the plan. Let me just get where's my article on the basements. Okay, there it is. So let's go share screen. So if we revisit, it's my second article with regards to the basements. So let's quickly listen to what they had in the basement.
One moment, please, before everything. What people are saying is their concern. It is not my concern. So what people are saying, I do not care about it. Except it is very precise and supported by other evidence. Unfortunately, in this case of 9/11, there are much false theories and false information, faked evidence, and so on. We must check everything, and we must keep only very strong evidence.
Okay,
it is very important.
Well, with regards to strong evidence, this is very, very telling with regards to the basements. Let me just quickly get this.
Go on.
Where the people were talking about what they found in the basements. Let me just quickly find it here. Where's my bathtub and basements? Manhattan. I think it's just busy, slowly searching for this stuff. Let's just see. Wow. This is what they had to say about the basement.
We have a grace period here. We've got 2 weeks just to get into as many of these cracks and crevices and get down deep to find them.
Yes, this is the empty underground.
And sit down and think, you might worry that, man, this thing can come down any minute. So you just kept your mind active. You know, look here, let's search here, let me see, should we move this, should we go that way? Because it might be easy to just say, holy, let's get out of here. You know, so you had to keep your mind focused.
That's normal. That's normal.
The rescue teams were confronted by a mass of twisted beams and crushed ceilings. Then they began to find signs of what had been there before. Further down, they discovered staircases that were almost intact, which aided their descent into the underworld.
That's also normal.
The deeper they went, the more preserved everything was.
That's fully normal.
Found an eerie world of underground shopping malls and car parks that in places were virtually untouched.
When you'd enter into a location, it looked as it did on September 10th. Some of the parking areas, the cars were in pristine condition. A lot of the cars were driven out of the place.
We have a great...
Okay, so you had partially damaged and virtually undamaged parts of the basements. And 60 minutes went in and went into the underground, and this is what they found.
Tens of thousands of people used to come to these underground tunnels every day.
So hardly damaged at all.
Not just to work in the towers and park their cars, but also to visit a vast underground shopping mall.
Thousands of people came here to shop every day.
Sure.
It was a city underneath the city.
A very, very vibrant place. Very vibrant place.
Shops were down here. In
Shops,
addition to the
restaurants, 15 to 25,000 people per building between people who actually work there. You have the, the 1 and the 9 train going through the middle of the complex. You've got the PATH trains. I mean, this was a mini city.
Below ground.
All below ground.
We still had 3 stories to go to get down to the rail tunnels. It was pitch black, disorienting, and it was slippery. The floor was slick with oil and gas from the abandoned cars, and we were warned the floor could collapse at any minute.
You see these cracks right here?
Yep.
Right along here, this is a cracked slab. You can see it goes all the way.
Yeah.
In a normal world, this is not a place I would recommend taking anyone to walk.
Well, that's the reason we want to keep moving here, because this is unstable. The PATH commuter rail line is 6 stories below ground zero. Miraculously, perhaps, no one died in this station the day the towers came down.
They use standard operating procedure for the Port Authority, and the TA is when there's a fire to evacuate. So all these, both the PATH trains and the subways were evacuated when the buildings were on fire. So when they did collapse, no one was injured. I mean, we lost a lot of people, but we saved a lot more than we lost.
35,000 commuters used to arrive in this station from New Jersey every day. But everything stopped just 5 minutes after Tower 1 tumbled down 6 stories overhead.
Of all the things we've seen some incredible things today. Seeing this empty train.
It's pretty eerie. It's pretty eerie. And the sign that says next stop home, I mean, that's really kind of poignant.
Fortunately, there was nobody in the train.
Absolutely.
And this got evacuated.
This was all evacuated. No one was hurt down here.
But it may take 2 years before the trains will start rolling here again, and even longer before a nearby subway line will be fixed. Tens of thousands of people.
So the whole idea of basically stating that all the rubble basically fell down into the basements is also a false narrative, because you can clearly see that obviously you had pockets that were damaged, but also a lot bigger areas that were completely and utterly untouched. As you could hear that gentleman saying that a lot of the cars basically got driven out from the parking floors where the cars were. So the whole idea of saying, oh, the lack of rubble is due to everything falling down into the basements is complete disinformation, because
because they only showed a small part which is accessible. The basement are very big, and there are much more space which is inaccessible. So the information they give here is not correct. What I see here is completely normal for me.
No. Then I can bring this up as well.
If we go down below the ground in that corner, well, here's what it looked like. The building, indeed, the main body went missing, just like it was sliced off there. So the mall is in the 1st story below ground. And there's some firefighters that were walking along there. We're going to go down 1 story and look at them. Here they are. That's right under that area. It's a little bit punched in down here, but you can read Innovation Luggage, Hallmark Cards, so you know right where they are. So now we're going to go a couple of stories below that to the loading docks. And it's painted purple under Building 5, so you know where you are, and then green under Building 4. So it's color-coded so the delivery trucks know where to unload. And we're going to look down that direction, just after 9/11. Listen to the echo in this audio clip.
Going down to the parking garage. We're in quite deep.
These are the first pictures of search crews underneath the World Trade Center, desperately looking for survivors.
That's not a collapsed parking garage. That's not even a full parking garage. It's an empty parking garage. If we go...
And then you had articles like this also come up. Engineers found much of the 7-story basement is intact.
Yes,
so the
it's
engineers'
possible.
Conclusions were reinforced yesterday by Meyer Rudolph Giuliani in referring to the retaining wall, said at a news conference that there's no reason to believe that it's been cracked. And that's the other important aspect with regards to 9/11, because if you had two 500,000-ton buildings slamming down to the ground, the bathtub would have been ruptured, and then the whole of Manhattan would have been flooded.
Norman,
due to the water.
Most of the damages were made by the exterior columns of the Twin Towers falling on the surrounding buildings and on the plaza. And where these pieces touched onto the ground or on the buildings, there was damage. But out of the area which were not impacted with such exterior columns, they were not damaged. So they are intact, and that's normal.
So do you know how close the exterior columns and everything of the towers were to the bathtub? That's how close. Oh shit! That she doesn't want to show. Let me just get that article quick.
It is. I said you the places where these exterior columns followed is not visible. Is not everywhere. They touch it to some place, but just a side of it, there is no column touched. So the side is intact, and the place where it touched is damaged. So that's fully normal. Norman.
To give you an idea, this is the picture. This is the picture that I can show you.
Okay.
That's how close. That's how close the bathtub was.
This is an example. Yes.
To the bathtub wall was to the exterior of the towers. So obviously, if you've had a 110-story building crashing down to the ground, that would have been ruptured and broken. Which it wasn't.
No, it was the what will be the building there, the wall. Please, the wall. Please come back. Bring back the image, please.
Okay, just give me 2 seconds. I just got to get the article.
You see, the wall that you see on the right side here will not be damaged. The wall that you see, because it is very, very, very strong, because it is on the basement, on the ground, and it is made on purpose to retain all water and all pressure from the exterior. So these columns, this wall is very, very, very strong. It will not be damaged. But where the empty spaces are covered with some steel girders, and these girders will be damaged and will fall.
Okay, so if it was so strong, why were the guys so scared of bringing down building 6 with regards to the retaining wall? Because this is what they actually had to say with regards to the bathtub. Because, come on, when they brought it down, they said, we have to be very careful how we demolish building 6. We were worried about building 6 coming down and damaging the slurry wall. So we wanted that particular building to fall within a certain area. We've got cables attached to 4 different locations. They'll be pulling the building to the north. It's not every day that you try to pull down an 8-story building, because that's why they didn't use any controlled demolition or whatever to take down building 6, because they were worried about the slurry wall. And then also at the same time, what the guys had to say when they were busy with and here you can hear the guys actually talking about the building 6.
Yes, but this is their information. Maybe they consider that they fear for the wall, but the wall was strong enough.
But no, the wall wasn't strong enough. Otherwise they wouldn't have used cables to bring it down.
Oh, we're getting ready to pull building 6.
We had to be very careful how we demolished building 6. We were worried about the building 6 coming down and then damaging the slurry wall, so we wanted that particular building to fall within a certain area.
Yes, that's normal. They should be careful.
4 different locations going up, and they'll be pulling the building to the north. It's not every day you try to pull down an 8-story building with cable.
And even in the 60 Minutes documentary that they also mentioned the slurry wall and how the
World Trade Center complex was built 30 years ago. An enormous retaining wall, called a slurry wall, was constructed below ground. The wall is 3 feet wide and 60 to 70 feet deep. It was designed to prevent water from the Hudson River, just blocks away, from flooding the 6-story basements.
Here is your slurry wall. This is probably an old tieback.
The other side of this is the Hudson River?
Well, the other side of this is mud, but the water table here is extremely high because we're so close to the river that special construction techniques were needed.
The massive underground containing structure is nicknamed the bathtub.
That's the difference. The bathtub in your house is designed to keep the water in.
This keeps it out so that they could build the parking structures underground here.
For 30 years now, the wall has been supported by the floors in the basement levels, floors that have now buckled. Because of all the damage, Ken Holden's engineers will have to shore up the wall with more than 1,000 cables to prevent it from collapsing.
You know, we're drilling through the 3-foot wall, drill 85 feet or so down to bedrock, then we drill 35 feet into bedrock, then we take basically the same kind of cables that they use on bridges, grout it up, basically concrete it up, wait 3 days for it to cure, and then they tension those cables, and that sustained the wall.
Something fell?
Something fell. Once the permanent...
Are we all right here?
We're fine.
Okay.
Commissioner Holden knows he can never let his guard down here, and he has concerns about the structural integrity of the wall when he starts demolition nearby.
As we talk right now, parts of the slurry wall have been damaged a little. Is there some water seeping through, or not much?
There is no more water seeping through the slurry wall now than there is in normal circumstances.
But it's a constant battle to keep it dry down here, to keep the floods out. Even when the wall is intact, there are several inches of water in these tunnels.
But this water is not seeping in from the river. This comes from firemen's water.
Exactly.
Saving the wall is critical. If the tunnels flood, the water could pour into train and subway lines and destabilize nearby buildings.
I don't know about you, but the hair on the back of your neck begins to raise.
What's the purpose of this video? What's the purpose?
So the main thing is just basically to say how fragile the retaining wall basically is. And you can't expect to have 2 500,000-ton buildings that apparently came down with rubble that apparently fell down and crushed the basements, which weren't crushed, and wouldn't damage the slurry wall. So that's the main thing. But we have kind of like gone off on a tangent, and I actually want to come back to our whole plan of the points that you raised, because we're already an hour in. So let's try just focus and get back to the points that you raised. So I'm going to go back to your first point. So your first point that you basically said is dustification of the structures. That never happened. Judy Wood uses only visual effects or misrepresentations. Then with regards to this, I think this is something where you can physically see as the building is coming apart and the steel is falling towards the ground, it was basically turning to dust mid-air. So this is an example that she basically uses.
She is deceiving. She is deceiving people. Sorry.
But
because
there will be other examples later on through the points when we go through the spire, which I would also like your opinion on.
Let's go.
Yeah, you see this like a stick. Keep watching it.
This is a part of piece of metal piece, and you have dust that remains behind it, because before this collapse there was much dust in the area.
one of this, but notice how all this is trailing dust. That's not from a
Yeah,
Yes.
personally,
There was a huge amount of dust before these columns begin to fall to the ground.
okay. So let's go. Your next point that you made is the falling North Tower spire left some dust deposit on it. If you look carefully, the dust does not appear at the beginning of the fall because the speed is small. The dust appears only when the fall speed is some high near the end of visibility of the spire. So this is Jim Fetzer discussing what he's seen. He initially worked with Dr. Wood, then later on changed this whole story to nukes or whatever, but this is one thing he had to say, and I've got another video to show you as well. So let's quickly listen to these two videos.
Go on. I don't care what Fetzer says, what other people say.
Absolutely fantastic photograph. You can see the buildings. This is the North Tower being converted into millions of cubic yards of very fine dust. And Jeremy, there in the foreground, that's building 7, that 47-story structure that would only come down 7 hours later.
That's, I think, the same photograph that Judy Wood uses on her book, on the cover of her book.
Oh yeah, sure. And I'll talk about Judy. I mean, she when I talk about how it was actually done, yeah, Judy calls this a bubbler. It's a fantastic photograph. Judy also emphasizes here the core columns of the North Tower being subjected to molecular disintegration. So here you can see them turning into dust. This is the final remnant of the North Tower turning into dust. Now, what I'm pointing out here is this is no collapse.
Yes.
The utter demolition of these buildings by some very powerful source of energy that cannot possibly have been accomplished by conventional explosives or even by nanothermite, as I'm going to explain. Here.
And then this is an angle that people hardly ever see. So let me just show you this.
Yes, that video is good.
Everything that's going on around our world, we don't see it.
The demolition method that I give explain all these aspects. Is consistent with all these aspects.
That's solid.
Yes, but it collapses later because the core was very strong. In the first
that's
step,
solid steel turning to dust in mid.
No. This is solid steel falling, and the dust that was on it is
so there
detaching.
you've got the dust off it. There's solid.
And it remains solid.
No.
It remains solid.
No. You can physically see it in front of your eyes turning into dust.
Yes, go on. You see, it is solid. This column is solid. And then in the bottom, the core is damaged, is cut in the bottom, exploded. Then it begins to fall completely because it has no more support in the ground, from the ground.
Okay, so where did all that steel go?
Sorry?
Where did all that steel go?
It was in the ground.
What, in a 900-foot deep hole?
900-foot deep hole?
Because it went straight down.
No,
and you had
no,
16 people at the bottom of it.
No, there is no. It is broken because this column is made of 36 feet parts welded on each to other. And this welding part is the weakest part of this. And when they fall, Most of the pieces were broken into 36 feet long parts.
Okay, so at the bottom of that 900-foot high spire that we saw,
it was
we
not
had-
it was not 900 spire. It is 900 feet is the tall of the building. It is
No.
1,200.
300 feet. The towers there,
1,300, yes.
yeah.
But it is not okay. It can be this way, but I mean, the remaining core was not more braced during the first step of the demolition. During this step, the floor trusses connected to the core was exploded.
At the bottom there, that section, that over there is building 7. That's
yes,
building
but
7.
yes,
That's
but
650 feet high.
yes, but
Okay, so that's 650 feet. That is a hell of a lot more. So that's around about 900 feet high. But we'll get into an explanation with regards to that stuff as well, because what you've got to keep in mind, you had people that survived in stairwell B, and that's pretty much underneath where that spire was.
Yes,
so
that's
obviously, if you had 900 foot worth of steel solid columns of the spire coming down, why didn't it not kill these people? Because once again, you've got Mickey Cross stating that they were in stairwell B, and then the building above him disappeared. So if it's explosives that you state that brought that spire down, why aren't these guys blown to bits? And
this can be explained. This is normal. I mean, during the demolition of the Twin Towers, there was a 3-step. We can separate them on 3 steps. The first step was the exploding of the core columns every 3 floors. That was at the beginning, and they began from the impact floor. And every 3 floors we had an explosion. But below, the core columns are very strong, and they are interconnected with strong bracings. So it is impossible to demolish them in 1 step. So they installed explosion on the floor trusses, on the connection of the floor trusses to the core columns. Then in the lower floors, every floor was exploded just below the floor slab at the connection of the floor trusses. But at this time, let me continue, please.
Yeah.
In the same time, they also cut the bracing, the diagonal bracing between the core columns. After these diagonal bracings were damaged, exploding the lower floor of the core will make all core collapse, because when the core columns are not stabilized by the bracings, they become very, very weak. And when they fall, their splices, their welded splices will be sheared by the impacts, by their own impacts to the ground. And that's what happened.
So the question is, okay, if it happened the way that you think it happened, then why don't we see the floors here that collapsed on top of one another in a pancake collapse or anything like that? Why didn't it crush stairwell B and the people in stairwell B? You can't see any of the floor trusses or anything there. The floor trusses weren't found.
It's normal. It's normal.
But it's not normal because you
I will
can't
say
see it there. It's not there.
I will explain you why. Because if you see the floor trusses and the floor structure, the floor trusses are only supporting the floor slab. And the floor slab cannot bear the impact when it falls. And all these dust that you see comes from the explosion that detached the floor trusses from the core.
But they found no floor trusses. None.
No. Floor trusses are there. We can see them. We can see We can see them on the ground. They are visible in many pictures. We can see them. No problem.
No, they're actually not there. And you can't see it in any pictures. It's actually been stated. And if you take into account the explosions and stuff, with regards to the survivors in the North Tower, you didn't have 500,000 tons of solid building material collapse on top of them. They weren't blasted or deafened by explosives or hit by shrapnel. They suffered no burns from jet fuel fires, lasers, molten metal, plastic clouds, or nukes. They were not struck by a single falling steel beam or other fatally heavy objects. They were not vaporized or blinded by nuclear detonations. They did not see, feel, or smell any molten metal coming down from the floors above. They experienced partial or total levitation effects during the main destruction phase, and they were right in the middle of the huge dust cloud that was not bombarded with hot molten iron spheres. Then the dust cleared, they looked up and they saw blue sky. So if there was explosives and stuff going off, and I've got an example of that as well, but let's listen to another fireman.
These are lies. Sorry, these are lies. There are floor trusses on the ground, on the debris. They are visible on many pieces, many pictures. No problem for that. Sorry.
I've got the other video. I first want to play 3 videos with regards to the survivors in Stairwell B and where they discuss what they experienced. So let's just quickly listen to them because we're getting sidetracked again.
Let's go.
You don't find a desk. You don't find a chair. You don't find a telephone, a computer. The biggest piece of a telephone I found was half of the keypad, and it was about this big. The building collapsed to dust.
You see, there are pieces on these buildings. This dust is completely normal, like a normal controlled demolition. But the amount of dust is too much more because the buildings were very huge. I can show you some video showing the dust like that.
Let's listen to
110-story building above us, and I'm looking up at the sun.
Yes, he was here in some places, and he was saved. Yes, he is miraculously saved.
Pascal Busselli fell from the 22nd floor.
Yes, he is miraculously saved. He was in a corner there, and there was no debris falling on it. Okay. This is not a normal controlled demolition. So the normal controlled demolition are not applicable to this demolition.
And I was just sitting there totally numb, looking up at blue sky. Then it got dark from the smoke and everything, and I started to cough. I started to feel pain in my leg. And I said, I couldn't even believe at that point that I was alive. And I survived that, and there was nothing above me.
Yes, he is saved. He is miraculously saved.
Yeah, nothing above him. Just look how big that building is.
Yes, but because the building, the parts are fallen elsewhere, aside. Nope. But he is miraculously saved. That's what I can say you, because this part remained still standing. Why this part remained still standing? I think they installed also bombs on these, but 2 possibilities.
We physically didn't hear any explosions going off at all. Otherwise, these people would have been deaf.
There was explosions. There was explosions.
No, there wasn't.
I can show you a video.
Let's quickly listen to Mickey Cross and his testimony with regards to being in Stairwell B.
started hearing like moaning, and guys were starting to communicate, yell out. These were the guys that I was trapped with. They're calling out, who's there? You guys are right, blah, 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 and this kind of thing. And I realized I was other people. I wasn't alone, you know. Because when you're alone in a situation like that, it's like existential isolation. It's like, and then when you find out you're with other people, it makes you feel a lot better. Even though you know you're in a very bad situation, at least there's other people.
Yes, core columns were very strong, and they
But
were
they
able
weren't
to
crushed,
keep.
bent, buried, melted, or pulverized. Those things were clear cut. It was as if they were taken apart. The bolts were missing, but the ends were still not damaged whatsoever.
No, they are broken at their welded splices.
They're not welded. They actually bolted together with high stress bolts.
No, the core columns were welded at their splice. And their splice were broken. They followed at the splices. So there is no problem for me. That is completely normal, and I can explain you why all this is normal. Norman, I am studying the attacks.
Light came right in on us, like about 8 inches long, but it was clearly sunlight. It was all dirty and full of debris, and it looked like pepper was floating around in it, sort of. But it was sunlight, and I'm like amazed now. 110-story building.
Okay, this is with regards to the bolts and the core column.
The whole theory that the thing pancake came down on itself, crushed itself, I don't see any signs of crushing. And when I say that, the wheat checks, and the wheat checks are the pieces, they almost look like a hashtag. Everybody knows what a hashtag looks like, right? They almost look like that, but what they are is they're made out of box steel, so they're hollow. And they're box steel that's welded together to look like that hashtag, and at the ends of them, there's 4 holes in the top, and they bolt to the next one that comes down. So these things are just all bolted together. The thing that really has got my attention when I seen that is that the end of these beams are perfect. The 4 bolts are gone. Now remember, these beams are made out of steel, and the bolts that are holding together are made out of hardened steel. So they're probably 5, maybe 10 times as hard as the steel they're holding together. Normally, that's the last thing to go. So if this building actually did collapse or fall upon itself or something, those wheat checks, those ends would be ripped apart. Those bolts would still be there holding the pieces of the flange together, but what those flanges are welded to should be ripped. I don't see any signs. What I see is perfectly square ends of those wheat checks. Even if they rip the bolts through, those holes would be all elongated, torn, that whole end would be ripped out. It's just perfect holes without these hardened bolts. You know, as a mechanic, I've been, I bolt frames together, you extend chassis, you make sure you use hardened bolts, hardened washers, and when you see things fail, the bolts are still there. They're the last thing to let go because they're hard. They're made to hang on. So there's no signs of pancaking. You look at the pictures, you look at like the cover there, there's a better one over there even on this book. You look at the cascading coming down. That's not pancaking. To me, it's cascading. If everything was supposed to be pancaking, you wouldn't see that corner of the outer shell of those wheat checks hanging there with, another piece fell off. How do they fall off? How did that one piece come out of that wheat check with all those hardened bolts on it and not show any signs of stress? There's no signs of stress on most of the metal. You look at those wheat checks, every one of them, whether it's stuck in a building across the road, which some of them did, these things travel distance. And you could see some of them that were falling were turning to dust in midair. People go, well, that's just dust on them. I'm going, well, you'd have to have dust 3 feet thick on each floor to the amount of dust. Not even in the concrete that's in there is going to create that amount of dust. So I'm looking at this picture and I see a lot of stuff in here. Street light with the wires still intact, all the signs on it. You got another street light, it's just a street light with a mile per hour sign on it, and you have more of them over here. two 110-story buildings just came down. There they are, and that survived somehow. And the ends of these beams, look at each wheat check. It's like they come unbolted. You look at them; none of them are half ripped or half torn. They completely, perfectly come unbolted.
This is
this is like failure analysis. You look at it and go, okay, what does the evidence say? The evidence saying that this part, it didn't get crushed. These aren't crushed. Nothing's crushed here.
Sorry, Norman.
Yeah.
This guy is his statements are wrong, because at first the bolt's strength is 2 times or 3 times bigger than normal steel, but not 5 to 10 times. It is
Okay, but
wrong.
where did all the bolts go?
Sorry?
Where did all the bolts go?
These bolts are connected in the middle of the column. These are not made to keep strength, to keep strong forces. They only keep the columns aligned each to other, and they are connected, that's all. They don't give stronger forces.
They basically put the building together like a puzzle, and the bolts were holding the buildings together, and the steel trusses together, and all those bolts disappeared.
The problem of these of the official report and the main idea followed by most of the conspiracy theorists is that the exterior column is the primary structure of the towers, and that's wrong. The primary
actually, if we finished watching that video, and that would the next section where they would have been talking would be the what you may call it, the designer of one of the buildings, basically this explaining that the exterior columns were the load-bearing part of the building. So let's just quickly listen then to what he had to say. Let me just quickly get it here again, so that we can just listen to that last bit of that actual video that we were just listening to, where he explains it. I think it's around about over
3 feet thick, still in, and the ends of these, they're complete. Okay, what is the?
It's important to realize that the towers were designed for airliner impacts. John Skilling, the structural engineer in charge, said that in the event of an airliner impact, quote, the building structure would still be there.
The building was designed to have a fully loaded 707 crash into it. That was the largest plane at the time. I believe that the building probably could sustain multiple impacts of jetliners, because this structure is like the mosquito netting on your screen door, this intense grid, and the jet plane is just a pencil puncturing that screen netting. It really does nothing to the screen netting.
Okay, but we're getting behind with time, so we still need to run through your other points. So this is
sorry, we need to speak about this issue. This is right. The building was designed to have an impact of Boeing 707, and it will do nothing, because the primary structure of the Twin Towers is the core, and it is inside the building. As long as this core is not damaged, strongly damaged, the building will remain still standing. And when the plane impacts the exterior columns, the exterior column flanges act like knives, and it cuts the plane into small parts. And then when the plane entered inside inside the building, there is only small parts, except the motor, the engines, and some landing arms, which remain stronger because they are bigger materials. But after that, there are only small parts that enter the building. And when small parts enter the building, they do nothing to the core, which is the primary structure. So the building is capable of resisting to several impact of several planes. There is no problem, definitely. It was very well designed in this issue because the primary structure is in the centrum, is the core part, and it is very, very strong. That's
no. Okay.
You see?
Okay. We will be getting to the planes a little bit later, but let's quickly get back to our list. So obviously, what you also mentioned is in all the videos from a distance to the towers, Judy Wood presents the smoke as dust. That's deception. So this is a video that I put together with the help of Math Easy Solutions, one other YouTuber. And here we're going to be looking at the spire again. We will be comparing it to the Eiffel Tower as well, because the spire was around about 900 feet high. And in line with that, we will also be looking at what happens when you do a controlled demolition of a steel bridge and how the steel falls. And then you'll be able to see that the spire itself wasn't big pieces of steel falling to the ground, basically turned to dust. So let's have a look at this video because it's got a nice comparison, and it will also finish off with that other part where we can see those three pieces falling to the ground.
You see, the dust is going down, and the dust is going up. The smoke is going up. All this is dust.
No, there's a building turning into dust.
No, it is not building. It is, you see most of the time the dust because it takes much more space. But the steel is below.
Number one.
The steel is below.
That didn't happen.
What is this supposed to be? This building, this bridge.
Tower. Unfucking believable.
Good Lord. There are no words. You can see large pieces of the building falling. You can see the smoke rising. You can see a portion of the side of the building now just being covered on the right side as I look at it, covered in smoke.
There are so many sensitive issues to be dealt with, not the least of which will be security for the participants in those marketplaces downtown, the New York Stock Exchange being the principal exchange in Lower Manhattan. It is likely, one would assume, that because of the worry that disrupting the financial markets could be worse than letting them open up and respond to the situation, that tomorrow may be the only day on which the various exchanges are closed. That remains to be seen.
Adopted Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, which is just where Arkansas and Texas and Louisiana all come together at an Air Force base out of the way, and he maybe safe 40,000 feet. And
Here's building 7, which is a 47-story building. It's like 650 feet tall, approximately. This has got to be over that.
It physically disintegrates in front of your eyes. Not concrete, but steel.
You can see all of this just frothing up into dust. And it's also blowing downward. That's about 700 feet tall. If that thing tipped over, it would take out a few blocks worth of buildings. How's it going to go straight down? You got a 700-foot hole in the ground, dropping into?
That's completely wrong. But the images are normal. You see, we saw these images several times, so I think it is a waste of time to watch them again and again.
No, I'm nearly done.
Going on around our world. We don't see it.
You can physically see the solid steel over there where the dust is already off it, and as soon as it's falling over, it just
Yes, the dust
vanishes.
is getting out, is detaching
It's a solid
from
piece
the
of
column.
steel that falls over that turns into dust in midair.
No, this
And
column
then the
is
fire
should
as
be.
well.
But
And that's solid.
this is the corner column of the core.
Yeah. And then when it drops down, it turns into dust.
It
Because
drops
it doesn't
down.
fall on the people.
It is broken into 36 feet long parts, sections.
Well, you didn't find it on the ground.
They found that they are visible in the ground. I can show you them. Not probably this one, but other ones I can show you.
Okay, there are about 10,000 file cabinets that are missing. There's about 20,000 floor trusses and 220 acres of metal decking that's missing. The question is, where did it go?
Sorry, I think we waste much time.
Of meticulous evidence.
Okay, but the next point that you wanted to raise was with regards to the cars, and these are the following points that you gave with regards to the burned cars. The sources of most of these cars is unknown. Parking far from the towers is presented as origin of sunburned cars. This is far from the towers. We have no hard evidence proving the prior situation of the cars, and these cars are presented as the consequence of dew impacting far from the Twin Towers. If such system was used, there should be use effects around the Twin Towers, but there is nothing, and actually there is. Now, with regards to the initial points raised, obviously other people try to raise the points, and let's quickly just run through that, and then I've got one or two videos to explain that for you. Now, Richard Gage basically tries to use the idea that it's thermite and it's basically molten spheres that was in the dust cloud that fell on the cars, and that's what burnt them, but that's completely and utterly not correct. Because if you look here,
that concern Richard Gage, we don't have to care with it.
but in any case, that's one of the other aspects there, because you didn't give a reason with regards to why we've got so many damaged cars. What caused that? You have the car look like that.
This is first of all, we have some parts fallen on this car, but first of all, we do not. This parking is far from the Twin Towers.
Precisely. So what caused that?
But maybe this parking was a retailer of car retailer, reseller.
Okay. And then you've got this car that was completely stuffed up, and if you look at it, the lights on top of it wasn't melted.
Because the light. Sorry, can you come back to the other one, to the car? Yes, here. The fire get out from the windows, and the lamps were protected from the steel cover on the top. That's so easy.
Okay, and the backside of the car,
It was
what fire is so
it
selective?
was extinguished before the backside being burned.
Okay, and what melted this
Here
this
the
vehicle?
same.
And why is only the front of this car burning, not the rest? If it was maybe a hot dust cloud or anything like that, why is it so selective? Just taking the front of the car and not the other cars around it.
Sorry, some people put some oil on this front side, and it burned this part, and this part is burning. The behind is not burning. That's all. But you know,
So
all these images are shifting the investigation from the Twin Towers, from the attacks, to some useless.
But you raised the point, and we need to discuss this, and that's what we doing.
I don't need to discuss this subject because for me it is far from the Twin Towers. But I know that Judy Wood brings this information to front,
okay,
and that's all.
So we have this bus.
And
in the back you can see that's building 7 over there. Okay, and then after building 7 fell, it disintegrated even more. So that shows you that there was something different at play. And then especially this is the toasted car park.
You see the people, the owner of these cars began to burn the cars in order to receive insurance money, and he was able to burn some of them and not others. It's so simple.
So you say people ran around and set fire to their own cars.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Isn't it possible?
No.
It is possible.
Because
why not?
people were running away from the buildings, and if you look at this article over here.
No. This car park is far from the Twin Towers, and its owner was still there. So he can easily do it. And I think this subject is definitely not related to the Twin Towers, to the collapse, to the attacks. So we need to throw it out.
We need to run through this, because this is where you had the buildings. Right over here at the bottom is where the car park was. Initially, when the first tower came down, those cars were still standing there and there was nothing wrong with them. Then, as the second tower went off, then these cars spontaneously started burning. And there you can see the car park. Also, that's building 6.
I can't
and there you can see the car park cars just started to catch fire. And there's over 1,400 vehicles. So you want to tell me people were running around setting fire to 1,400 vehicles?
If it is so close to the Twin Towers, maybe falling debris created some fire on some cars, and the fire began on everything. But you know, this is.
If you look at how far it is, that's where the towers were. That's 4 blocks away. That's where the car park was.
Yes.
So what caused them to spontaneously combust? And then once again, we need to listen to, if you look at this video over here, this is a guy that was very close, within a block from the towers. Now the towers came down and he hid behind the one vehicle, and you can see after the dust settles and everything, all the cars around him are fine. So why would cars spontaneously combust in various streets and that specific car park all around the Twin Towers? What caused that? Because you can't say it was the dust cloud, because the dust cloud didn't burn people. You will see in this video, when this guy gets up, there's people around him. They're not burned. The cars around them aren't burnt, but a bunch of cars that were blocks away ended up catching fire. And we'll also go over to EMT that was there, and we'll have to listen to her testimony as well. So just bear with me for 1 minute on this video.
I hope I live. I hope I live. It's coming down on me. Here it comes. I'm getting behind a car. Incredible. Okay, I'm gonna have to go find people who need help, because I don't think I'm one of them. You okay, sir? Okay. Can I just get a toot off your respirator? Can I get a toot? I'm just getting a couple of clean breaths.
That's good. Okay.
Back to you.
Unburned paper everywhere.
This is the car I hid behind. It saved my life. Oh, wait, maybe it was this one. There's all these noises. I don't know what it is.
No, those noises were basically the fireman alarms going off, the locator alarms. So basically what was said by other firefighters is they would find the locator alarms, but they didn't find the firemen that they were attached to. So the question is, where did those people disappear to? They were never found.
Which people? Inside the Twin Towers?
So the firemen that were in the towers when they disintegrated.
Yes, because I know
disappeared.
that. I know
The
that.
people disappeared, but they found the locator alarms. But let's quickly power through this because we're going to be running out of time and we've still got a lot to go through. So let's just listen to this with regards to the toasted cars.
Toasted cars. I say they're toast, they're history. I can't say that they're burnt because I don't know that. But they're toast. I just decided to use that word to say something happened, messed them up. You can't fix it, you got to get a new one. But this one is quite interesting in that it has an abrupt, toasted, not toasted. Like it's like it's on the showroom floor. It just had a new wax job back there.
That's normal.
What stops a real fire, a regular fire, doesn't do that. It would be lapping around the corner. Also, why aren't the lights melted?
I didn't hear of any fireballs rolling down the streets, and cars were going into spontaneous combustion. There was no fireball that hit them. They just simply burst into flames for one reason or another. There was even a car park blocks away that the cars started smoking and catching fire, and no one questioned that.
Various detractors like to say that the cars got towed. I don't know about how some of them were, but I know these were not towed. You can see them before and after. And you can see cars adjacent to each other. One might be okay, and the other one isn't.
The other one's fine.
Witness accounts of what happened to some of these cars too. For example, Patricia Ondrovich, who was a first responder, she, I think, came out of World Trade Center 7, and the cars were exploding right next to her.
The FDNY vehicles were remarkable. There were enormous ladder trucks, pumpers that looked like they were thrown on the field.
We are far from the Twin Towers, from the attacks. These are lateral consequences, normal consequences.
No, not actually. Listen to what this EMT saw.
Your name is?
Jessica Maldonado.
And where were you and what were you on 9/11, the day of the 9/11 attack?
I was an EMT in New York City. My office was from the Bronx, New York, and I witnessed everything that day. I was on duty that day. And what happened that day was a lot of confusion, a lot of hurt. It was just, it was horrible.
It wasn't what they told us.
It was not what they told us. It was not what was on the media. It was totally opposite.
Totally opposite.
A lot of the stuff that I witnessed was not, was covered by the media. It was not shown. One of the things that I saw was we were helping the firefighters put out a fire 2 blocks away from the buildings. And a bomb squad came and they told us not to go in that block. And we were all like, okay, why? Why won't we go in that block? And we, stood back. As soon as we stood back from that block, the cars were just exploding, just coming up.
Individual, like each one had bombs in
them. I don't know if it was bombs, but they were exploding up.
Wow.
It looked like someone put bombs under them or something was in it. But how did the bomb squad know to tell us to move away from them, even before we were going into that block?
Wow.
Yeah.
How many people witnessed this with you?
It was quite a few. It was a group of us. It was at least 10, 15 of us.
And they took pictures?
Yeah. They took pictures of the surroundings. They took pictures of a lot of the flames, a lot of the burning building. Right before one of the buildings came down, they took pictures of that. We took pictures with the disposable cameras that we had in our rigs. And we always have a crash kit in each of the in the rigs. And that night, when we were all home or wherever we were at, we got a phone call from our superiors telling us to hand over the disposable cameras. Government officials wanted the cameras. They did not want us to develop any of the pictures that we had. But we kept them. We all have pictures.
God bless you. That experience that affected you to the point you actually quit. What happened?
I did. I quit. I didn't go back to the service. I mean, it wasn't that exactly that made me quit, but it opened my eyes to a lot of the stuff that we see in the media, a lot of the things that the government talks about. The truth, you have to look for the truth. Don't believe what they tell you. Just don't believe what you see out there. You have to see it for yourself.
God bless you. Where do you go to get your news now? What do you do?
Now, sometimes I read up on it, sometimes I just...
So the other statements that the guys were making with regards to the stuff is tires and cars were popping and they were just starting to light up spontaneously.
No,
we were just starting to put out the car fires and the rigs were going. Ambulances, I mean, there must have been 50 of these things burning heavily. The Scott cylinders and the oxygen cylinders were all letting go. They were all blowing up left and right. That's firefighter Todd Heaney. Other guy, it was a ambulance. It must have had Scott bottles or oxygen bottles in it, and the things were just going off. And then especially this one with EMT. She said, as I was running up there in North Park, 2 or 3 more cars exploded on me. They weren't near any buildings at that point. I don't know what was causing them to blow up. I figured it was an impact of the building falling and residual effect. I'm not an engineer, so I can only guess at a probable cause. I don't remember feeling any extreme heat. So cars are exploding with no heat. And she says, I remember parts of the car flying off. I think I got hit by a car door. I remember they were also on fire, but I didn't especially recall the move fireball, but there was a loud bang as the door flew off the one car I was running past. So why would cars just start blowing up? And Dr. Wood has got a bit of a explanation for that with regards to the work of John Hutchinson, because a lot of the metal stuff and the levitation effects and a whole bunch of stuff that they saw there is in line with his Hutchinson effect. And he had a boat experiment.
Forget the Hutchinson effect, because the Hutchinson effect is very special effect produced in a laboratory that requires huge equipments behind it and much power, and we are out of these. In this case, we are out of these possibilities. So this is impossible. Simply, somebody may install some bombs under these cars, and it's so easy. It is so simple. So really,
no. The thing is, if you've got field effects happening with regards to the towers and everything, and this is what Hutchinson showed in his boat experiment. As soon as he switches off these equipment or whatever, spontaneous fires break out. And that can be an explanation for why these vehicles ended up spontaneously combusting. So there are similarities with regards to the research and stuff that he has done. So this is the experiment. And you will see basically, as soon as it's on, you've got the water moving and all of that. And then basically, as soon as he switches it off, poof, you've got all these fires breaking out, and that's part of the residual effects with regards to what we've seen. Yeah, it's a bit of a bad video. So let's move on. So that's the cars aspect. So now the question that you asked is, do DUs exist? Yes, such weapons exist, mainly in lasers and electromagnetic waves. Such weapons can damage electronic systems. For example, an airborne plane can be destroyed by damaging its electronic systems, but such system can have no effect on structures in the Twin Towers. The power is ridiculously low. Unfortunately, I need to give you a little bit of a history lesson on some of the directed energy weapons and stuff that are out there. And I don't know whether or not you are familiar with the work of Colonel Tom E. Beard. Yeah.
Sorry, we wasted too much time with these wrong, false theory.
No, it's not wrong, false theories. I need to show you, and I need to give you a little bit of a background, because you need to have a bit of a history lesson with regards to directed energy weapons. And this is a short little clip with Colonel Tom E. Bearden from 1985 for CNN, and he was doing a lot of research on RF weaponry and electromagnetic implosions and all of this kind of stuff. So listen to what they were keeping an eye on in the late 1970s.
Scalars. In doing so, you can create, for example, either an electromagnetic explosion at a distance, or you can create an electromagnetic implosion at a distance, the extraction of energy from a distant point. This would look like a cold explosion, so to speak. Or you can create an electromagnetic implosion at a distance, the extraction of energy from a distant point. This would look like a cold explosion, so to speak. This would look like a cold explosion, so to speak.
It is completely meaningless information, meaningless statements, because compared to the big, huge towers there, it is definitely impossible. There is no single example in history of such huge effect of electromagnetic waves.
Scalars.
He's actually showing stuff that they saw in the Soviet Union, how they were testing RF weaponry.
Yes, but the test they made lead to some electromagnetic wave, powerful. Our microwaves furnaces comes from these investigation, these experiments in the past.
Yeah. But in 1989 was the first reports of directed energy weapons being deployed in the Panama invasion. So just give, this is from a 1992 Academy Award-winning documentary, The Panama Deception. And listen to what the people have to say with regards to what they saw there
10 minutes after they've been speaking this surrender, surrender, we start to hear the helicopters start to bomb the quartel and start to use their laser ray and things like that. So we hit the ground.
It soon became clear that the objectives were not limited only to military targets. According to witnesses, many of the surrounding residential neighborhoods were deliberately attacked and destroyed.
You know, this very bad video and very unverified images and verified information.
Just give it 2 seconds.
Korea went to nothing.
We are not going to use that as evidence. Very bad quality, very meaningless. This is only deception.
No, it's not.
The Pentagon used Panama as a testing ground for newly developed high-tech weapons, such as the stealth fighter, the Apache attack helicopter, and laser-guided missiles. There are also reports that can't be explained, indicating the use of experimental and unknown weaponry.
Nosotros tenemos testimonios de personas combatientes
We have testimony about combatants who died literally melted with their guns as a result of a laser. We know of automobiles that were cut in half by these lasers, of atrocities committed by weapons that fire poison darts which produce massive bleeding.
I think there's a high probability that there was a use of sophisticated weaponry merely to test it.
Ramsey Clark, former U.S. Attorney General, has conducted extensive research into the invasion.
Above all, though, there was a use beyond any conceivable necessity of just sheer firepower. Just an excessive use of force beyond any possible justification.
President Bush wanted to make certain that this was going to be a success. This was going to be his vindication, a denial of the wimp factor in spades. So they sent down a force that wasn't going to encounter any effective resistance, would simply overwhelm the opposition, and the fact that it would cause tremendous peripheral damage to innocent civilians on a wide scale, was not of concern in the planning.
What we intended to do was to reduce collateral damage. I don't know what that means. Collateral damage? That means if the target is right here, you're trying not to have damage to other places. You're trying to have damage to a specific target because that's a military target, and you're trying to minimize damage outside of the military target. And they worked.
And then...
Again, stop 1 minute, please. Today, lasers are used to clean objects, but the energy that make these lasers can damage a person, can damage a tire, but it cannot damage a twin tower. The tower is thousands, millions, billions of times bigger, stronger than human or a tire. So these weapons can do nothing to the Twin Towers.
Well, it's a cold directed energy weapon that is not in the public domain, but we saw exactly how it worked.
No, it exists. Today it exists in several armies in several countries that exist.
Yeah,
but
there's different directed energy weapons. You've got hot directed energy weapons, and then you've got the one that they used on 9/11.
It is electromagnetic. It is an electromagnetic beam. That's all. A strong electromagnetic beam.
Yeah, but this is field effects that was used. There was no beam used with regards to 9/11. It was field effects that changed the molecular structure of.
No, the change of molecular structure is not possible with that. Not molecular, but atomic structure cannot be changed. Changing of molecular structure, changing is not possible.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Dean Warwick, but Dean Warwick was born of a MI6 operative, and you've got to listen to this short.
I didn't hear this guy. The first time I heard this guy, so I cannot. Normally, I cannot explain and I cannot express anything on him.
Okay, but just have a quick listen.
Hello there, my name's Dave Starhook, and welcome to the 50s by these three superpowers then in the Eastern Bloc, bringing down 25-story buildings using nothing but sound wave infrasound. Good heavens. And I did discuss this recent years with a Professor Francie, who remarked, and don't, this, that, and the other thing with respect to that 9/11 fast that we saw. And of course, we all know that Michael Meacher, who was a cabinet minister, was removed from office because he publicized the fact that he had read word for word what was to happen to the Twin Towers 3 years before the event.
3 years before the event?
3 years before the event.
Can you reduce the size, the volume, please?
Engineer, and I have teaching instruments, postgraduate universities, polytechs around the world in my research into certain aspects of engineering, that is, and I knew that there was a calling many years before that the Twin Towers would have to be should be demolished, which was an engineering facet to the overall game here. And what people do not understand when it comes to New York is the New York Port Authority demand that any building erected in New York must be able to be brought down within its own footprint. In other words, we don't want a 50-story building falling sideways.
Sideways, no, not at all.
Terrible damage. Now, there is something with the Twin Towers which many people have not picked up on. Apart from the films that we have seen, and we see, for example, or we didn't see for 6 months, we saw nothing of the second Twin Towers building being hit on its face. And I was suspicious about this, thinking there's something they don't want us to know. Then we were told there was to be this screening of this bit of footage showing the plane actually striking the face, and I made a point of seeing it. I sat in front of the television, I saw the plane strike, and I put my head in my hands and I said, "Oh, you bastards, you bloody did it, all right." Talk about some Muslims taking over planes, etc. Forget it. I couldn't establish and prove that with the first Twin Towers building, but certainly with the second. And what I saw was as the plane struck, or the hologram presentation of a plane when it was really a pod that struck, was that the actual structure, the material making up the external skin, each section weighing around 40 tons, it behaved exactly the way it should have done had it been influenced by infrasound, which is what I witnessed with the training that I was doing in the mid-60s, watching what the Brits, the Russians, and the Americans had been doing in Eastern Europe back in the late 50s. So I don't believe much of what is 9/11. The other thing with 9/11, which very few people, well, in fact, again, I haven't seen anything spoken of publicly about this, but there is a building, and about 15-20 stories up off the ground, if you get a look at it, you will see that the corner of this building, which is way distant from the Twin Towers positioning, 3 of its floors are torn apart on the corner. Now, there was no way that material from the Twin Towers could have flown out and struck that building.
Not at all.
So, in my discussions, arguments with Professor Francie, I said that as far as I was concerned, that infrasound influence upon those buildings was satellite-based. And of course, his remark to me was, well, how could that be, Dean? He said, we couldn't have anything from space coming in by way of sound wave, infrasound or anything. I said, yeah, but it could be electromagnetic, and then it's transposing itself as it gets within our atmosphere. The thing here to understand is that people don't appreciate the only thing that travels through space. Light, there's no such thing as light from the sun. It's electromagnetic radiation. And in the event of light, for example, it's when that electromagnetic radiation enters the atmosphere of the Earth, it agitates the gas, and that is daylight. There's no such thing as light from the sun, and that's how, for example, we don't have to look at photographs and analyze them of Aldrin and Armstrong walking on the moon. We know they didn't take photographs on the moon because there's no such thing as light on the moon. We see the moon because we see a reflection of the electromagnetic field striking boulders.
So in any case, 3 months or 4 months after that radio interview, he was giving a talk, and then all of a sudden he died of a heart attack whilst in the middle of his conversation. You can also read up with regards to what
sorry. Okay.
What
he says,
David Icke also wrote.
Okay, he says 3 years before the attacks happened, somebody said him that the Twin Towers will be demolished. That's right?
With using the technology that is not in the public sphere, yes.
Okay.
Into that.
Using the technology is another issue, but I can say you that these attacks began to be designed. The order was given. The order was given in the first months of 1997. So this makes it more than 4 years before. Okay? So That means everything that happened since the beginning of 1997 to the attacks could be related to the attacks themselves. And the order of these attacks was given by Netanyahu, who became the first for the first time prime minister in 1996. So the mastermind of 9/11 is Netanyahu himself.
Not necessarily. That's just pure speculation.
It is not speculation. It is confirmed. Netanyahu arrived to New York on 10 September 2001. And during 2 days, we never saw him. He did not speak. He appeared in the video in the media on 13th of September with an image in the background. And this fixed image proves that his position is suspect because he hidden his position.
Yeah, so there's a lot of suspects. There's a lot of suspects, but the thing is that you need to be able to get somebody with regards to a specific crime. If you can't file a specific crime against them, then you won't be you need to know you can't say somebody died due to a knife wound when the body's got a bullet hole in it. So there's a lot of suspects.
Sorry. USA today is unable to show hard evidence to prove that the 19 terrorists are on board of the planes. They don't have strong 100%. Evidence. And they are blaming those guys since more than 20 years. Where are we going?
No.
Sorry.
Okay. So
for coming back to your
justification, I need to show you this with regards to the South Tower. A lot of people never ever talk about the South Tower, and with this one, I would like to see how you can explain that it could have been bombs when you look at these pictures. So this is the South Tower initially.
Aman Zafar's pictures.
Okay.
Pictures made by Aman Zafar.
Okay. And then you've got the building basically going down.
Yes.
And then you've got the core left.
We have the core that remains there. Yes.
Precisely. And then it basically fizzles away.
The core is also collapsing. Yes.
Okay. And then you've got this big wave of clouds. Now, if you look at the video or at these pictures, there you can see
the core in the other side, from the other side.
That's frothing into dust.
No, it is not frothing to dust. There are much dust around it, and the sunlight.
That's solid steel.
Yes, it is solid steel.
It stands there for a few seconds or whatever, and then it just fizzles away.
Yes, but it collapses later because they knew that it will still stand. The core is very, very strong. Even when they cut the bracings, it remains still standing. Then they used a huge explosion at the last time on the splices of the core columns to demolish them, to make them fall down completely. And when the core collapsed, then with the impact, the core columns separated at 36 feet long every time. Some of them
fizzle away into dust. Can I just quickly show you this, because you've got to keep your eye on this and look at the shadow of the core, and you can basically see it basically just fizzles away. So there's no external explosions or anything going on, hitting them into pieces or anything like that.
Sorry, the explosions are happening inside the core, so they are not visible from the outside. And only during the first step of the progression of the explosion downward.
Okay, this is actually the video that I actually wanted to play, because this is the same view from the pictures that I gave you.
Engineers at the firm that built the building's best guess to account for the missing 1,200 feet of material.
You see that dropping away. So you see the core was standing,
It is now. It is already collapsing now.
And it basically...
Engineers at the firm that built the building's best guess to account for the missing 1,200 feet of material from each tower is that large portions simply vaporized into the dust that rained down on New Yorkers.
That image comes from me. I did this image, but it is wrong. This
you
image
can physically
that you
see
show.
that core is standing.
Engineers at the firm that built the building's best guess to account for the missing 12...
I know.
Same in this.
Can you, the image there, the drawings, the 3D drawings that you show in the video.
Okay.
I am the author of these. These were my first investigations of this core. But they were not true. They were wrong because the precision of the measurement was not good enough. In fact, I was thinking that only the middle rows of the core still standard. In reality, the whole core still standard. So I very well know these images, and I asked the people who used these images did not ask me permission. And I asked them to remove these images. They did not remove them. So they are using false images on my name. They are to be blamed.
Okay. Just want to go back to that other video that I want to was starting to show you as well.
Mr.
Okay, let's just check when it basically falls to bits. We'll basically be able to see the shadow.
This is explosions.
No, that's the building basically letting go on a molecular level. There you can see
explosion. The core is there. Yes, the core is there.
And it fizzles away. It fizzles away into dust.
No, it collapses. It collapses. It downs. It gets down.
But that
because
metal isn't on the ground.
No. When the explosion, look at the core. I explained that in my video. If you saw it clearly, if you listen it carefully, you will understand that. Because I explain it.
Solid material frothing up into dust. There's no explosions going off.
No. Below in the below floors, two or three levels, splices of the core columns are exploded. And when these splices are exploded, the upper part of the core will collapse because the bottom is collapsed, is exploded. So
with this video, you've got to keep your eye on this section over here, because this is solid pieces coming down to the ground. Obviously, that's building 3.
I can see. The precision is not good enough. Is this?
No, I know the precision isn't good enough, but you'll see it now in the video. Whatever's falling here never makes it to the ground because it just is a big trail of dust, and that's solid pieces falling, and it just never hits the ground. Nothing hits the ground.
We don't see it. We don't see it. We don't see it. But they touch the ground. We don't see it because the video removes it.
Very large piece that is fizzling.
No, there are several small parts, and with dust behind them.
And to give you an idea of what's going on there, if you look at this experiment with Hutchinson, you can see this piece of steel of iron bar that is being subjected to sound waves and electromagnetic waves, basically liquefy and contorts, and you've got smoke coming out of it, and it just breaks up, and it's cold to the touch. So, and he gave an affidavit with regards to this Hutchinson effect because he was working with the Los Alamos labs, with the Canadian government and all those guys, and they stole his equipment and everything. And what he feels, and that was in 1986. So what they did is they took his experiments and his data, and they basically just upscaled it. And that is the
Show
explanation.
Get it, get it. Oh, goodness, what the hell? Just pull it out of the test area over there.
Yes,
And
but
put it on the
what is
hole
this?
in here.
You know, we have electromagnetic cooking cooking machines in our kitchens. They produce heat
7 long, just under 2 inches.
Inside the metal. They produce heat inside
basically
the
what
metal.
he says, this piece of metal was cold to the touch. And Colonel John Alexander, who was working with him in Los Alamos labs, has also testified to that as well. So you'll hear about
by 2 inch solid block of iron. And this is a small sample that just sort of did some strange stuff, but not as impressive as this thing. Try and turn around and get the best light on it here. It's a bit heavy. I'll do a rotary thing here. It's still flaking off pieces of it here. Small bits are all over the place. Seems to be the outer shell. Now the different unique kind of ways this happened. There was a lot of smoke, by the way, but no, the actual sample was cold. I'm not sure if the smoke was like a dust formation coming off of it or what. But these are some of the small pieces that came off of it. There's a bunch of others over in the other section there. I should film that too, I guess.
And he was doing this at the end of the 70s already. And if you then take into consideration with what Dean Warwick said and what the Americans, the British, and the Soviets were doing in the 50s already.
Sorry. But this experiment is made in a laboratory, and there is nothing comparable to what happened on the Twin Towers. There is no single relation. There is nothing, no single relation to the Twin Towers. Nothing. We just waste. We only waste time and energy, and also information pollution or pollution of information, because this is definitely not related to the Twin Towers.
It actually is. Let me just show you where. I just want to find this because I didn't prepare this.
It isn't.
Where is it? This is the same type of stuff with the weird fires, the weird bending beams that you get with the Hutchinson effect.
This beam, you know, no, it is not Hutchinson effect. Sorry. Come back behind the president. This column in the lower bottom side, it became like that because when it touched the ground, one of the plates was spliced, and the spliced plate was cut at the splice, and then it became very weak and it turned like that. So it is simply a core column falling from high to down. That's all.
Actually not. And you had the same thing with all the levitation of the vehicles, these weird holes that you had in the vehicles, and also the fracturing up of metals.
This metal does not come from the Twin Towers on the left side. The Hutchinson effect.
That's what he did in his experiments.
Yes, but the right side.
And you saw exactly the same type of effects at the World Trade Center.
No. The right side is an exterior columns damaged with several impacts. That's all.
No.
Yes, several impacts you have on these columns, and they are damaged because these columns on the top side are very thin. Because they don't need to be stronger, and they need to be light in order to reduce the weight of the building. So on the top side, these columns are 6 millimeter thick, so they are very thin compared to the below. So when something touches on them, they will be damaged in that way. It is totally normal.
And I think Jesse Ventura and everybody will also disagree, because he's also gone to the museum, and he's also made a couple of statements with regards to that, and give this a listening to.
But these statements are deceiving.
No, actually not.
It was not a controlled demolition, it was not nanothermite, and it certainly was not the pancake effect of two planes hitting a building. There was something else in play there, Alex. There was a weapon in play that day that I don't even know what it is, but I can equate it to being like a microwave. You know how you can take a piece of chicken and put it on a paper plate and stick it in the microwave and the chicken will burn, but the paper plate won't?
Yes.
Well, something happened that day equivalent to a microwave, and by capturing bin Laden, maybe we could find out what weapon he truly has, because I just learned there were 1,400 cars toasted that day all over the streets of Manhattan.
No, that's right. The cars that didn't have anything fall on them were completely fried, but expanding, just like a secret helicopter reportedly crashed. We know they're 30 years advanced what they really have, but there's another area that if you look at it, British physicists and others, and it turns out the government did measure this, you can confirm it, radioactive isotopes used in small nukes were picked up in levels off the charts in and around the towers.
No, I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
Now,
nukes were not used.
Well, the radiation was picked up. Now,
no, I don't buy it, because when those towers went down, there was less impact than when they brought down the Superdome in Seattle. And there should have been way more. Those towers literally disintegrated. They went into dust. And nukes don't do that. Not at that level. Radiation would have been extremely high.
Well, I'll tell you, Tower 1 and 2 are very suspicious. But when you look at 7, that's a conventional controlled demolition.
No, it isn't. No, it was not either. Because you got to read the book, Where Did the Towers Go, by Dr. Judy Wood, BS, MS, and PhD.
No, I know who she is.
I just finished her book. It's very remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you that Tower 1 and 2 exploded into pyrotechnic dust, and things are being ejected long distances. But 7, you can see the boom, 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 and the symmetrical collapse into its own footprint.
Yeah, but you also see it lathering up a half hour soon, where smoke started coming out of one side of the building and one side of the building only. You had cases, the dust was everywhere with paper. Always remember, there's a simple thing. When metal when something is hot, it will glow, but it doesn't have to be hot to glow. But not everything that glows is hot.
Well, I know this. They do have a lot of...
weapon used that day, Alex, but it's a weapon that's beyond anything that I know about.
Sorry, it is only pure deception. I have an explanation, feasible clearly, but I will not give it today because we lost 3 hours, nearly 3 hours only for this deception work, because it is only deception work for me. And I gave you answer almost everything. Maybe 1 or 2 are not defined clearly, but most of the evidence you show have their explanation, and I gave many explanations. Now we need to explain how these attacks were made. And unfortunately, we are not going to do it in this way this time, because I will not begin to explain what happened 3 hours after deception work, after lies, after false theories. Sorry.
Well, then we are going to have to disagree with regards to that, because your whole premonition that it was explosives and everything, as I tried to show that it's completely and utterly not feasible. There's no way that it was explosions. I showed you pictures with regards to the lack of debris, which you just don't want to see.
Sorry, you don't know if it is feasible or not. I tell you, it is fully feasible, and I have the explanation of everything on this issue. So as long as you do not listen it and you do not understand it carefully, you cannot say it is feasible or not. And up to now, my video is on the web. You said you watched it, but I'm not sure you watched it carefully from the beginning to the end, till the end. I invite you to watch it carefully and to try to debunk it, because it is important to understand it before debunking. And I'm ready to answer all your questions, but up to now you gave no question about my work. We only discussed the work of Judy Wood.
No, because she's right.
No, she is not right. I gave you explanation for everything, and I know people are. I'm not against you, Norman, because I know that when people believe on something, it is very hard to change opinion. And that is active. That is true for everybody. So what happened today in 9/11 is that the government gave a false explanation. And
yes,
nearly 90% of people believe it, the government official version. And then there was conspiracy theorists who created hundreds of false theories, false evidence, false explanations to catch the remaining 10% of people to believe their false theories. And then you have 99% of people, or nearly 100% of people, are believing false stuff from the government and from the false conspiracy theories. There is no more room for the truth. But I can tell you that I give the truth, because I took the time required for investigating these attacks carefully, continuously, and after about 12 years in investigation, I was able to put the name of Netanyahu on the top as the mastermind. After 3 years, after 4 years and a half, I just began to suspect some Zionists to be implicated. During 4.5 years, I only investigated technical aspects, facts, and I was not very far. I had many information, but not complete information. And really, this requires very long investigation and to be very careful, because you have plenty of false information to make the pollution of information. And if you go therein, you are catched in a false information, you remain in this false, and you continue in the false information, and you are lost. And that's a problem that is applicable for everybody, including you and me. That's why I continuously keep the possibility to be wrong. And I'm ready to listen everybody who is ready to debunk my work. But I can also tell you that since about 5 years, there is no more critics on my work. There is nobody who is able to debunk anything on it. And every people who asked me questions on this issue got their answer, and they escaped the discussion. Again, I'm not against you. I understand you. It is not easy to change opinion after so much investigation. But I really invite you, give you an invitation to watch my video on the web, to check it carefully and notice all your questions. And then we can have another discussion to get all these explanations.
Okay, but I've shown you the lack of debris. I've shown you physically
It is not, sorry, I gave you the lack of debris. It is not true. I gave you the explanation why. It is not true. Remove it.
No, not at all. There isn't enough debris. The basements weren't damaged the way that they were supposed to be. The bathtub wasn't ruptured. There was no damage there. You can't explain the vehicles. You can't explain the lack of seismic readings. You cannot explain the changes in the Earth's magnetic field or anything like that.
There is no magnetic field issue in 9/11. Forget it. You see, that's you have some doctors, such as Judy Wood, who are using their degree to deceive people. Forget those such guys.
You can physically look it up. There are other researchers like Chris Hampton, Richard E. Hall, Mark Conlon, all those guys who've looked at all the seismic readings. They've looked at the aspects with regards to the planes, the events at the Pentagon and all of that, and it all points to one thing and one thing only that was used on 9/11, and that was directed energy weapons. There was no explosions whatsoever. Otherwise, you wouldn't have those survivors in the bottom of the North Tower. Nothing fell on them. They didn't get burned. They didn't get blasted. Nothing like that.
Norman, for demolishing the Twin Towers, the explosion should happen inside the core section, because the core is the primary structure. When the explosions happen inside the core, you see nothing outside, only the overpressure, only the ejection of dust you can see outside. And we see this ejection of dust. We see everything on this issue. I can show you
frothing up into dust. That is not a controlled demolition whatsoever.
Can I show an image from my side, please?
Okay, 2 seconds. I just want to quickly just show you one last thing, and then I'll stop screen sharing. Because if you look at these two and you put them side by side, you can definitely see that these two do not look the same. Where the hell is it? There is the short. Shit. No, that one doesn't want to play there. Where is it? It's in that article of mine, Controlled Demolition. Thought experiment. There it is. Load the video now, please.
Hands and praying. As I stand on the Manhattan Bridge, which is closed, it is open to pedestrian traffic. Some people are working across, but there's just no way for them to. As I look at it, something is. I can't. Looks like the building is going. Is that the building going down? Is that the second building, the World Trade Center going down? Yes, that is.
Those two are not the same.
You mean the speed of fall is the same?
No, not even the look of it, because the dust cloud doesn't go above the building. The seismic readings for the buildings weren't in line for a 110-story building. There are numerous things.
There are the seismic signs are smaller than concrete building because these buildings are lighter than concrete buildings.
Not at all.
So that's normal. The speed of collapse, the speed of progression of the explosions should be as quick as the free fall speed, because the pieces that fall from the top should not fall on the bombs that are below. So every aspect is checked. We need to check many things, and I actually checked all these aspects. You see, this is just an image to show how the explosions happened. So we have the core section here, the core columns, the floor trusses, and the exterior columns. The explosions happened just below the floor trusses, the floor slab, sorry, and on the floor trusses connection to the core. Then when the collapses progress, the explosion progressed downward, the upper floors collapse in this way. They become oblique, and the overpressure that happens gets horizontally on the explosion floor, and more we go up, it is oblique in this way. And we have also vertical guides with the lift shafts and so on that brings the dust upward. And these areas remain empty without dust, without anything.
But again, those floor trusses and the steel wasn't found at the bottom on ground zero. It wasn't there.
I can find you images of these pieces. There are too many of them. It is visible in the debris and so on. They are smaller because they are thinner. They can be easily bent when they are not maintained on the right position to support the floor.
I would like to see those pictures because there aren't any pictures of any floor trusses that were found.
We can find them. There are images of these pictures, at least in the official reports. We can find them. I need to search to find them. I cannot give you it so easily. That's why I asked to get your arguments. If I get it, I would prepare something for that. But there is no problem on this issue. I really, Norman. You are right by saying that the official story is wrong. But that is not, if it is wrong, that does not mean the other stories are true. Every theory should be considered according to the evidence it uses.
Correct.
And if it is completely consistent and is able to explain every aspect, every known fact. And this is not an easy way, because as I said the puzzle that 90% of pieces were removed, we have only 10% of pieces of the puzzle. So it is not easy to reconstruct the puzzle, and some evidence is missing, but it is possible. It is always possible if we are very careful and we consider every aspect. And I can give you that my video where I explain the attacks of 9/11 considers all aspects, and I tried to do it as short as possible, as complete as possible. So it is 1 hour and a half, about 140 minutes, something like that. It was to watch, and please watch it, try to debunk it, and notice all your questions. And then we can discuss it.
Okay, no, definitely. And then I just quickly want to leave you with one last idea with regards to this. So just one quick last thought experiment that we can possibly quickly do. And yeah, let's go.
And there's a quick little analogy that I wrote that was inspired by Eric Larson, Dr. Eric Larson, to write, that helps to explain what that means to people. So just put yourself in this theoretical example for a second. So please consider this example. It helps to illustrate the difference between a conclusive body of evidence versus a theory or hypothesis. So pretend that I had my attorney provide you with the following verified and certified factual evidence. I own a common household pet. It's a mammal. It has 4 legs. It has sharp teeth. It eats meat. It has lots of hair. It barks very loudly. It drools when I place food in front of him. He wags its tail when he gets excited. He eats from under the table. He often chases cats. He barks at the moon. He can be trained to do many tricks, including sit, stay, and roll over. He can play fetch. He has a strong sense of smell. He's often used by law enforcement to fight crime. He's often used for hunting, to retrieve and flush out game before the game is shot. He's closely related to wolves. He's a domesticated animal derived from wolves, and he's also known as man's best friend. So based on that factual information that I just provided you with, you can irrefutably conclude, without theorizing or speculating, that I own some type of dog, because there's no other possible explanation that even comes close to accounting for all those verifiable facts I just gave you to describe my pet. You don't need to theorize. You don't need to speculate. You don't need to guess. You simply have to review all of those facts that I gave you and know them in detail to know beyond any reasonable doubt that I own some type of dog. Now, you can only conclude that I own a general category of animal known as a dog. You can't say it's a brown dog or it's a Labrador because you didn't have enough facts to go that far. That would be theory or speculation. But you can at least irrefutably conclude without theory or speculation that I own a general category of animal known as a dog. And that analogy is exactly related to 9/11 because the evidence is that overwhelmingly conclusive. If you just take the time to understand it, you can know that some type of general category of weapon known as a directed energy weapon was used to turn those buildings mostly to fine dust in midair before they ever hit the ground. And it's very hard for me to say that to colleagues and stuff because they don't understand the evidence. So, but I have no problem saying that anymore because I understand the evidence that well that it's irrefutable. And so that's why when you ask me what can people do, I encourage them to first try and understand the evidence as much as you can before you try and go raising awareness about it, because a lot of people are not going to wake up to a simple YouTube video or a quick little news article. They're going to want the facts. And so try and understand the facts first.
Sorry, his understanding is wrong. This explanation of Judy Wood is wrong. There are other explanations much more consistent and complete. So
Here's a quick summary, just quickly.
A quick summary is that the buildings didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground, but they turned into dust in midair. How do I know that? Because if they had collapsed to the ground, you'd have a pile of debris that would correspond to 210-story buildings. That didn't happen. Lower Manhattan would have been flooded due to a broken the dike that holds out the Hudson River. Few people realize that the towers were built in the Hudson River. And the bedrock is 70 feet below the water table. So there's this dike they call the bathtub or slurry wall that holds out the Hudson River. If you crash down 2 500,000-ton buildings onto the bathtub, it would have ruptured and flooded the subway tunnels, the PATH train tunnels. That didn't happen. As a matter of fact, when they took down the remains of Building 6, they used a cable to pull it down because they were afraid to use explosives. And this was a 6-story building. It was just this little clump left. And the other way I know that it wasn't that buildings turned to dust, just the simple way, is that if the buildings had collapsed to the ground, they'd make a thud, and the seismic signal that was recorded did not correspond to the size of the buildings. The seismic signal corresponded to a 16-story building or a 20-story building, not 110-story buildings.
And there's a quick little analogy.
So the seismic aspect depends on the weight of the building that is exploded. If you take a concrete building and you explode it 2 or 3 places, you have huge amount of mass that is detached at the explosion time. But in this case, we are in steel building and it is damaged part by part, progressively from top to down. So there are continuously small amount of weight which is removed from the ground. So the energy will not be so high. It is not related.
But there were no S or P waves even recorded. So if you can't have seismic readings without a S or P wave if it's a controlled demolition. So basically all that they measured was surface waves. So at the end of the day, it's like the building was taken off the ground. It's you can equate it to somebody sitting on a mattress where you can feel the person when they get up. So there's a lot more credence and evidence when you take it all together that basically points to you. And there was, once again, with regards to explosives, if you want me to go watch your video, make notes to debunk it, fine, I'll do that anytime. But then do me the same favor and take Dr. Wood's book and then debunk what she's got in there, because the book has been out for over 14 years and nobody's been able to debunk it.
Sorry. Judy Wood's book is debunked many times, and I also explain it shortly, but I don't want to waste time to read all his book. I watched your videos. I just ask you to watch my videos, that's all. And my videos are much shorter than what we did today here. It is half the time we waste up to now. So I think really we must, you must watch my video and try to debunk it, because
certainly.
And can we fix the next meeting for next week?
Yes, so we can organize that via email. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but that was interesting. We'll have another chat soon. Thank you for your time, man. And we'll definitely take this up for another round. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Have you
Have
too.
A good week.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.